Peter Strzok's blaming the whole Russia hoax that we spent 3.5 years litigating, basically, or dealing with it in the Justice Department. And two of the lawyers that are on right now, Andy and I, of course, were heavily involved in that. And now Peter Strzok's on this publicity tour about his book, saying that this was because of overwork.
Is it sloppy work, or is it FBI agents trying too hard to get something on members of the Trump campaign?
I don't think at all that it's anything improper. You get people who are overworked, who make mistakes, and don't get me wrong, inexcusable mistakes.
This was the Crossfire Razor portion of it, of whether General Flynn had been acting as a Russian agent during the 2016 campaign. The partly redacted document says that they had no derogatory information on Flynn and was prepared to close the case. So Strzok is not telling the truth. They were prepared to close the case. He wanted to keep it going.
That directive, that memo was not followed, Jay. Why? Because Peter Strzok overturned it at the direction of the 7th floor. You went through some of the names that are on the 7th floor. That also includes Peter Strzok because he was running this investigation. So if there were inexcusable mistakes made, as we now know there were, by the way, those irregularities in the FISA case now, Jay, throws into question everything that court has done. The Inspector General said as much. So those inexcusable mistakes, those were done. Those were the responsibility of none other than Peter Strzok.
Former President Obama, James Comey, Sally Yates, your friend Andy, Joe Biden, and apparently Susan Rice discussed the transcripts of the Flynn calls and how to proceed against him. Mr. Obama himself directed the right people investigate General Flynn. Now, that came, again, while the FBI that was actually doing the investigation said nothing there.
Obama, the President of the United States now, calls back Biden, and Yates, and starts talking about things. And Sally Yates says she's flabbergasted. She had never heard of anything like this nonsense. She's the Deputy Attorney General. The FBI reports to her directly. So unless Comey had some grand scheme, I don't believe Sally Yates didn't know this. And the president himself says, and with respect to General Flynn, make sure the right people investigate.
Who are the right people? Jay, it would be the people that are going to hold over into the next administration and can keep an investigation open. That's why people like James Comey and Sally Yates would be pulled back in, because while President Obama and Vice President Biden are outgoing, those two would stay behind.
You had a decision to target Flynn, a premeditated, deliberate attempt to target Flynn, so you would then have a legal basis to go after the incoming president and to continue this investigation designed to impair and hamper President Trump's effectiveness going forward.
Every agent has their own opinion. I have my own personal opinion as well. Every day, though, around the United States, government employees walk into their jobs and they leave their political opinions at the door. They do their job like I did my job, objectively, independently, and in pursuit of the truth.
He was fired by the special counsel because of an animus against the president, where he said, we're not going to allow the president to be elected. Don't worry, we have an insurance policy. Andy, what is he talking about?
He's talking about something that is just unintelligible. He's trying to justify the actions of what he is, and that is a corrupt rogue agent.
There is clear and unmistakable evidence in the record showing that there was no evidence, for instance, that Flynn lied to the FBI. There was zero evidence that Carter Page was an agent of the Russians. And yet that's what was placed within the FISA application, a process over which Peter Strzok supervised.
President Trump's counterintelligence vulnerabilities are exponentially greater than any president in modern history.
So do you think the president is a national security threat?
I do.
Well, Bob Mueller fans spent 3.5 years and concluded he wasn't.
Let me tell you who's a national security threat. Any agent or
Strzok.
any agency that spies on American citizens based on information that they know is fraudulent. Any agent who opens a case, as Peter Strzok did, I've got the document right here, without grounding. Any agent who overturns the recommendations of a D.C. field office. OJ, I've got that document right here.
You have made a decision, as Peter Strzok and his girlfriend did, that they were going to undermine the system and make sure that the president, the candidate who was running for office, was not going to get elected, and they were going to take all the measures against that. They were the ones that were undermining national security, not the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Remember, the most important thing is to counteract this is to vote.